Namatu Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello. Good evening. So today is Saturday the 4th, July 2020. This is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here with you all on the occasion of this Saturday, as usual. And hello, Margaret, Manish, Simone. I was trying to use the new technology, the Zoom that I normally use for other classes. Try to link to the Facebook and see whether that works or not. It seems a little bit complicated for me at the moment, so I just changed to this old version, hoping that it works. But it didn't work, and now I'm just using this old one again. So I hope you all having a wonderful time on this Saturday. So this Saturday I've been, as usual, very busy, every week, because we have a morning session meditation that lasts until 11 o'clock and general daily rituals of offering food, traditional offering food to the monks, and after that teaching children every Saturdays. And within 2 hours of a break again, this is the evening talk that will follow, again chanting and meditation. So this Saturday always been very busy for the monks at the center. Meanwhile, Ajahn Peter is working very hard towards the renovation of the barn, and the roof almost done, so we will be moving towards the floor probably next week. So probably in a few days we were going to get materials for the flooring, all the brick blocks and the beams. So we'll see how it works, and we all working together to make it happen, hopefully this summer. And our members and the community are also helping as well. So today, now this is the time, the beginning, the Vassa, and tomorrow will be the full moon day. And on the full moon day of the Vassa, the Asala Purnima, or known as Asala, is the very important days in the Buddhist calendar, where the monks will observe the Vassa or Vassa Vasa or Varsa Vasa or Vassanang and or Pansa in Thai language begins. So tomorrow basically a special day, and we believe that the day when the Buddha took a conception or took birth in the mother's womb, and also the day when he left the palace in search of the truth, and also the day he gave the first discourse, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, fulfillment of Triple Gem after Venerable Kandanya became the first disciples, ordained immediately after hearing the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and after many people joined into the Sangha, as the instruction given by the Buddha, venerable monks traveled far and wide, non-stop, spreading the message to all the people, village after village, and all around the Indian plateau that time. And with that, what happened was that people criticizing monks traveling, because during the monsoon time, even the birds or animals will retrieve and stay in retreat for 3 months, and even other religious faith priests or monks, ascetics would take the 3 months retreat during the monsoon time. But whereas the Buddhist monk were simply traveling around and spreading the teachings of the Buddha, and with that they had to travel through the paddy fields, and which had destroyed the paddy fields. And as a result, people criticized the monks that, there's the disciples of the Buddha, Sakyamuni, never stay in one place despite of the monsoon. Because of these are walking around in our paddy fields, they have destroyed our paddy fields. And with this criticism, it came to the Buddha, and then after carefully consideration and thought that this is a proper time for monks to stay in a retreat. So that's how the Vassa began. And this is the reason why every year the monks have to observe this Vassa, or the Varsa Vasa, that has been a tradition ever since the time of the Buddha. And as I said, and in Asia this is a monsoon time, but in Europe or Western countries it's not a monsoon, it's a summer, and yet it's been a tradition. So around the world, and the Buddhist, particularly the Theravada tradition, would observe this Vassa in a great extent, and on the day of full moon or the next day, lay followers would come to request the monks, saying that, "Venerable monks, would you please receive our invitation to stay in one place for 3 months? And during your stay in 3 months, we would provide you necessary food, lodging, and medicines, and for your convenience of a study and a practice." And that has been a tradition. Once the lay followers invite the venerable monks to stay in one place, venerable monks would take a vow that imasaming avase imang tema sang wasang upema, which means that in this dwelling place for 3 months I will observe staying here, or retreat for 3 months, like that. So it's been a tradition ever since. And during this time, again, taking this opportunity that monks are going to stay in one place for at least 3 months, lay followers or householders would take the advantage of having monks. So basically, developing the merit making by giving a dana, or the meritorious giving, offering food and necessary things, and meanwhile practicing the sila and also development of the mind. Okay? So that's why the Vassa Vasa has been a very, very important day in a Buddhist calendar. And in particularly today, I would like to speak of first the discourse that the Buddha gave on that day, which has been a very important discourse in a Buddhist world. And even all the Buddha's teachings been summarized in that particular talk. So basically what happened was that the sutta begins with saying Evang me sutang. Yeah? Evang me sutang. Here means that thus have I heard. And almost all the suttas or discourses begins with the word Evang me sutang. And this is because after Buddha passed away and after the cremation of the Buddha, there was a Buddhist council took place. And this Buddhist council took place after the cremation 3 months later. And in that council, the senior monks have decided to compile the Buddha's teachings. And in that council, Venerable Ananda, who was the attendant of the Buddha for about 25 years, who had heard much of the teachings and who was like a personal great assistant, had remembered the teachings, and he recited in that council and that's how it's become the tradition, or it's become all the discourses begins with Evang me sutang. So thus have I heard. And and then in this sutta, in this discourse, also said that where the sutta was given, the discourse was given. So it's saying that the Varanasi yang Isipatana Megadayavana. Yeah. So in the Varanasi, in India, current in India, the Saranath, the Isipatana Mrigadayavana, the Saranath, the deer park, the Buddha gave this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And here in this sutta, the Buddha say, Tawe me bhikkhave anta pappajitena nasevitabba. There are two ways venerable monks should not, or the monks should not follow. One is atta kilamatthana yoko, and the second is the kama sukhallikana yoko and atta kilamatthana yoko. These two extremes should avoid by the people, those who are seeking for the liberation. And number one, kama sukhallikana yoko means that looking for the sensual pleasure. And I think this is very famous, even nowadays, that people look for the material gain and hoping that the more material objects they have, they more become happier. And that's the reason why almost all the people are so indulged in this material gain and strive to get more material objects and enjoy basically entertaining this five senses, hoping that it gives us happiness. And this was a tradition, or this was at the time of the Buddha too, that those days there were not only the lay followers or the householders, but also the ascetics were all practicing that we have to live with this essential pleasures, because we do not know that whether there is a life after death or not. That's called nihilism. Yeah? And as a result of that, people, there were so-called philosophy called charavak, the philosophy that consume material things, thinking that this is the only life we have, and try to gain all the material objects to satisfy our senses. And according to the Buddha's instruction, saying that this is not the right path to get the real happiness. This is simply we will be happy as long as we are consuming that object, but the very moment when we do not get that, then we become upset and we become suffering. So that's why this is not the right path to gain the liberation. So that's why hino dhammo. It's a very low practice to get the liberation. It won't take us to liberation. Yeah? And the second that Buddha introduced was that saying that this extreme should be given away or should not be followed, is the atta-kilamattana yogo. Yeah? This means the seriousness, austerity, too much harsh on oneself. And this needs to be taken away too. And this we can see that sometimes we are very hard on ourselves to get successful, and with that the string been very, very tight, and it's very easy to break. As a result, these two extremes should not follow. One who is looking for the realization, one should avoid these two extremes. And the Buddha introduced the one teachings called the Arya Astangika Magga, or Eightfold Noble Path. And this has been the foundation of the Buddha's teachings. That's why when people ask me what the Buddha taught, I normally used to say, and which is famously known in a Buddhist world, that Buddha's teaching, or Buddha found the Four Noble Truths. And in my understanding, he didn't found it. He only found the Eightfold Noble Path, because the first noble truth is about the suffering, or the dukkha, and this was there whether Buddha was born or not, and it will be. And that's why Buddha said in the Dhammaniyama Sutta, saying that Upadhava bhikkhave anupadhava bhikkhave tathagata nang dhitavasa dhamma dhitata dhammaniyamata. So these dhammas were there, will be there, whether the Buddha arise in the world or not. But the Buddha simply discovered it and just presented that this is the dukkha, this is the suffering. So that's why he simply discovered it, or uncovered, which was covered. So that wasn't the truth. That wasn't that he found. Okay. Then the second is the samudaya satya, the cause of the suffering. Again, it was there already, and the nirodha satya also was there already. People know about the suffering. People know that there is a cause for this suffering, and people know that it can be ended even before the time of the Buddha. So that's why during the time of the Buddha, all the ascetics were just working towards the liberation. They were working and trying to find the ways to get this to the end, and then they never found the ways to end the suffering. And whereas the Buddha also followed the similar path at the beginning, but later he found that all the paths were available, were not sufficient, and were not leading towards the liberation. So he went on and practiced by himself, and he realized that once we have avoided these two extremes, whether it's too easy, or too working with a very less energetic, or sluggishness, then that also will not bring the liberation. Or if we become too serious and austere, and also will not get the liberation. What we have to do is to follow the middle path, and that middle path become the teachings of the Buddha. And that's why the whole Buddha's teachings is not about the philosophy, it's not about the religious teachings, but it's about the path. That's why I normally used to say that it is not the problem that what it is the problem. Okay, it's not about the problem is important. It's about the ways to deal with it. And the Buddha or Buddhism is basically the ways to deal with that problems. Yeah. So the solution, or ways to find the solution, is the Buddha's teaching. So that's why it is known as the middle path, or the path, or way of life. So that Buddhism became a way of life to find the solution for any troubles that we are going through. And when we look at the Eightfold Noble Path, we can see that these Eightfold Noble Paths not separate, working together and at once. But again, we can divide into each sections, in each one after another, which I will continue from tomorrow, and focusing on each Eightfold Noble Path, or this Four Noble Truth. I will be speaking on the Four Noble Truth, and then Eightfold Noble Path, and so on. But today I will just give you the brief introduction, or this just the background of this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, that what it is. So in the Eightfold Noble Path, basically eightfold means the 8 things comes together and become Eightfold Noble Path. And this is the path, the Eightfold Noble Path become the foundation ground for the Buddhist practice. And some says this is the 8 ways to get the happiness. And some would say that this is the the path that leads to the complete liberation. Yeah? So that's why the Eightfold Noble Path being the really important teachings of the Buddha. And once we have understood the Eightfold Noble Path properly, then the whole Buddha's teachings will be understood. And this understanding of Eightfold Noble Path, again, is simply not just a philosophical way of understanding, but we have to realize it through our own experiment and experience. And that's again, experiment or experience is not based on an outer experience or external, but it should be from inside, an internal experience. Okay? And this Eightfold Noble Path again divides or categorizes into the short form as a Sila, Samadhi and Panya. In terms of the Panya, this comes under the Eightfold Noble Path is the having a right understanding and a right intention or a motivation. Some translate it as Samadhi as a right attitude or right understanding, a right view. But I think a right view or a right attitude can have a different connotation or different meanings of it for it. But if we took it, if we translate as understanding, I think I would say it's what the Buddha meant to right understanding, which is quite straight towards what meant by the Samadhi. Though Dithi, some right view also widely translated for that. And the second is some Sankappa, means the right intention. And basically that links so easy here that once we have got the right view or right understanding of things, the way we think will be right, and that's become the first part is the wisdom part. And the second part is the Sila part, which is the morality part. And in the morality part, Buddha was talking to have a right view, a right speech. That's a right speech. And Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Vayam, Samma Ajiva. So basically having the good speaking and right speech and a right action and right livelihood. This is the part of the Sila section. And then in this right speech and right action, that basically comes under, in a basic term, the five precepts. And the Samma Ajiva, means the right livelihood, is basically that working or earning our livelihood with a right way, rather than destroying or any harmful ways of earnings for the living. And the Samadhi, again, it's a very famous one that we know and been widely practiced. In the Samadhi, it begins with the right Vayama, or the effort, right? And then Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. So Vayama here means the effort, and the Samma Sati means the mindfulness, and Samma Samadhi means the right concentration. So that's why a practice of a meditation, the mindfulness meditation, is just a part of the Eightfold Noble Path, not as the one which is the important, but it's just a one part of the Eightfold Noble Path. And again, in the Samadhi section, this is Samma Vayama comes before the right mindfulness and right concentration. So that's why the first thing we have to develop is the effort to work it out. And that basically comes once we have the right understanding about the things. And once we have got the right understanding of the things, and we will think that in a right way. That's why it's called a right intention or right thought. when we have a right thought or the good thought, then basically the way we speak will be right, the way we behave will be, or the way we act will be right, and our living, all the work that we do also in accordance with the rules and regulation and will be right, right? And with that, what happens is we will be able to put more effort on to development of our mindfulness and concentration. So this is the part of this the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra that I wanted to speak today, as just to give you a broad background, and the following days I will be explaining each one at a time, just to give you a wide understanding of this this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, or the first discourse of the Buddha. Okay, so this is I will give you for today, and in a few minutes time we will have a chanting and guided meditation. I would like to invite you to join with us, and if you're around in Aberdeen, you can come to join tomorrow for the invitation to invitation ceremony, and then the observation of the Vassa. So for this as today's talk, and just give you a background of the whole teachings of the Buddha. And with this, may you be happy, peaceful, and successful. Charan Pon, Yom Ya, Sabai Di Na. So, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow for the talk. And meanwhile, if you are tuning in, we will have the meditation and chanting and guided meditation shortly. So till then, thank you.